Sales is simply you being able to share with somebody else something they need, right? So it could just be using LinkedIn as an example. You could have a set of friends in the industry who are writing posts that are not getting the right responses that they want. You could do nothing more than to like or love their post and write a comment back. Loved what you wrote, really added value to my day. Right? Very simple one, but you could then go into much more complicated responses. That is you selling yourself as a good person.
Happy birthday to you.
How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. Good to see you.
I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm glad to see you too, sir. It's we had an awesome conversation our first time through, and honestly couldn't wait to talk again, to be honest with you.
Nice. Oh, thank you. I'm excited about that. I'm curious, since I really like your service. How many clients ish do you have?
As a professional coach?
No, the website stuff.
Oh, right now it's probably in the realm of, I think it's about 72-ish, give or take a couple.
That sounds pretty specific. All right, good.
I track it pretty closely. I try and keep it kind of tight so I can actually care about it personally, not just have it be reckless.
I have so since we've spoken, I've really narrowed down my one of my go-to-market products, which I was doing before, but I had bundled it into something else. And it so is in line with what you're doing. I thought I would share.
Sure.
Do I have a minute to share on screen? Oh, can I? Okay.
Time is yours.
Well, except we still have to have a fun conversation.
This is fun for me.
Oh, yeah, I think you'll like this.
Station's very raw and authentic, and I like to just capture the raw essence of it, not have it. I mean, from last time we had a conversation, it's not scripted. We keep it very organic. And I did have an awesome conversation with you that last time, which was far and away one of my favorite episodes, just talking about the CPOP, talking about LASH, which first of all, I'll give you full credit for coming up with the acronym for that, which I still use. So thank you for that. But I think having these conversations is super beneficial to people figuring out what their possibilities are and figuring out the purpose and all that sort of thing. Would have a question. If we're talking about something like LinkedIn, right? For me personally, I've never gotten into using LinkedIn as anything other than just a thing that I have to have it. I've sort of never seen the purpose of it. So I'm curious for your thoughts on it, because you are someone who I've seen really do an excellent job at using it and growing it and leveraging it. For me, I've always seen it as very one-sided, very selfish. Hey, I did a thing at my job today. Congratulations, good for me. And I've never seen a lot of good, genuine connection happen there. So I'm curious, am I missing out, which I feel like I am, or is there a better way to really leverage that platform that I just don't know about?
Ooh, that's a really deep question. Thank you. To give a little bit of context, I've been on LinkedIn since before it was making money. As a matter of fact, Reid Hoffman, Konstantin Gerlich had me in their offices, and they hired me to write their first ever book. And so it's interesting, and I'll tell you this story so that you get a feeling for the answer. When they said, Mitchell, we're gonna pay you to write the book, and then they go, what should we write it on? And my question to them is, well, of all the services you have that seem to be doing well, which do you think will be a good moneymaker for you? And they said recruiting. I said, well, let's write a book on recruiting, and we took it from there. By the way, just to be clear, they were paying me a check and I had to ask 3 times for stock instead of the check and get turned down 3 times before I accepted the check. So just in case. If the entrepreneurial thing in you is like, Mitchell, did you get stock? I'm like, yeah, no. um, like any platform, what happens is there are many bad actors, and LinkedIn is chock full of many bad actors, as well as any other platform. When we created the concept of social media, you notice social media has 2 words. It's media and social. Now, if you went to an event and you wanted to be social with somebody, most people would, walk in, be nice, look around, see who they could talk to, just be the normal person you are as you are at home or as you are at work. Coming across that way is powerful. You typically wouldn't go to an event, take out a blowhorn and say, hey, look at me. Who wants to talk to me? That's what happens on LinkedIn. That's where some of the bad actors, that happens on many social media, and so the real value of LinkedIn is to be able to, like any other platform, to be able to connect with people who are interested in paying attention to you. Right. So sometimes to me, when I think about that, I think about people who are particularly friendly with me, so friends. I like to think about people who are potential referral partners for the things I do because they trust, know, and like me, and I like to think that there are prospects there, and there are, right? And so for me, the biggest aspect of LinkedIn, besides first, if you know who you are and show up well, we talked about the CPOP. CPOP stands for Customer Point of Possibility. So if you know the audience you serve and the pain point or pleasure point, then what happens is you need to use that to then update your LinkedIn profile so that your target audience, either directly your prospects or the referral partners, when they look at your LinkedIn profile, they go, oh, wait, this is somebody who speaks my language. They play in my playground. So that has to be step one. LinkedIn is not the place where you create your resume. And that's where 80-90% of LinkedIn profiles are. Right. So then what's next? Really, the tool that's right at your fingertips is a tool where you could send messages. And interesting or easy messages to send are happy birthday. Hey, it's your anniversary, because LinkedIn lets you know these things are happening. It's your anniversary. Congratulations. Right now, a lot of people, when they respond, they'll just say thank you. But there are some people who say, thank you and how are you? What's going on? And I have to tell you how surprised I am at how many people who just don't pay attention to, if somebody is saying, hey, I'd like to talk to you, they're knocking at your door and you're ignoring them.
I've actually learned about my work anniversaries sometimes from other people on LinkedIn and say, hey, congratulations on working at so-and-so for 10 years. I'm like, man, I forgot that existed, but I see it from other people. But receiving some of those messages, there's a clear difference on the receiving end between someone who says happy anniversary or someone who says, hey, saw that you've been working at this place for 10 years. That's awesome, man. Proud of you. How's everything going? So I think that there's a little genuine intention that can come in that can help you really stand out from being sort of self-serving. Right? I just wanted to throw that point out there because I think a lot of people might.
I really appreciate that because I wasn't clear on my messages. I don't like basic messages. Like, for instance, if you and I are not connected, or if you look at how we connected, if I connected to you, I actually wrote a personal note, right? Because if I don't like things blank, I want to be very clear. And so the question becomes, when you reach out to somebody, are you paying attention? When they talk back, are you paying attention? And there's, for me, when I think about spending time on LinkedIn, and typically to do it right, it could be a half hour a day, right? So you want to, for instance, about 5 weeks ago, I started thinking about a different audience I need to spend time on. What does that mean? and I've paid for Sales Navigator. So I did a Sales Navigator search of those people who I want to connect to. And I am every day sending out connection requests to that audience because I want to build a relationship. Now, once again, I'm not going to knock on somebody's door. They're going to open it up. I'm going to say, hey, buy my shit. Right? It's just not the way it works. I might, depending on who it is, I might provide something of value. Right? So for me, given my CPOP is Inc. 5000 CEOs leading the future with executive gravitas. And so what I might do if I'm connecting with that quality person is I might send them a link to an article I wrote that might be relevant to them. And then, if they respond with, I read it, I love it, well, that's an open-ended door for a conversation.
Right.
If they don't respond, I go, hey, listen, I know you may or may not have had time to read the article, but given your background and given who you are and looking at your company, listen to those words, your background, that means I looked at it, who you are, your company, I would love to have a conversation. Now, sometimes I may say things like, this is just good old fashioned networking, right? Which means I'm not going to sell you anything. Because when you really get to understand somebody and know who they are, then opportunities open up automatically. And we're moving into, I think, the world where lots of people took advantage of social media as a blow the horn and hope people come in. Hey, come and visit me, and people come, to more the world of relationships, particularly with AI. It's about that human engagement. And so LinkedIn is a great way. So for instance, let's say something amazing happened and I announced it on LinkedIn. There may be people who will see it that I would never actually manually tell. And they might actually say something. That's my job, to pay attention. And that's a trigger, right? To pay attention and to have a conversation. And for me personally, I'm looking to build as many people who are referral partners to who I am and what I do, as to people who are clients, and both sets of relationships I maintain on LinkedIn.
So what I'm hearing you say there is, if you understand how the platform works, if you operate with genuine intentionality in your messaging, in your conversation, in your relationships, and instead of automating things to the point where you can just scale out messages and just bombard people with things, but you are intentional and you invest your time in those relationships, you would say LinkedIn returns a pretty good ROI as far as networking, professional, there's a lot of benefit to being present there properly.
The answer is yes, if. And the if is that where your clients are hanging out? If that's where your referral partners are hanging out? And to avoid, and by the way, this is the first time I've been asked that question this way. So my answer is really long. Thanks for summarizing. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
With the right intentionality with anything you do, coming at it authentically with integrity, with a strong desire to be of service to others, almost any platform can work for you. So the question is, where do your referral partners hang out, and where do your clients hang out? And in your case, for the businesses that you do, there are many referral partners that will hang out on a LinkedIn. As a matter of fact, because of what LinkedIn has done, there are many people who don't have websites who are hanging out, and they just have a good, robust LinkedIn profile. Now, there are people without websites with really crappy LinkedIn profiles. That needs to get addressed. But that's the thing is, you could use any platform as long as your referral partners and clients are hanging out there. You could use any platform to your advantage. You just have to avoid the bad actors who are trying to sell you something where you don't act the way you want to be. You have to be you. You can't accept somebody else's marketing cookie cutter approach to how they solved a problem.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. And I think even on a non-professional level, if you're not fishing for leads per se, but just operating in a space where you have other people who are associates in the same industry, and you want to build some relationship where you can, get some commonality and get some friends going. I could see some benefit in that too, because there are some people who are listening to this who maybe are not in a sales position, or they don't necessarily have to go out and generate new leads for their company, but they might be a legal secretary at the law office where they may just want to make relationships or get to know some people who are in the same industry. I think if we tie that back to what we talked about with having people feel loved, appreciated, seen, and heard, if you could show up on this platform and just genuinely love on people and say, hey, I saw you did this, X, Y, and Z, and just pour into them, because most of those people are there looking to be seen, I think you could use that to kind of build that relationship as well, right?
There are so many tactics. By the way, I will say one thing in contrary to your thought. We are all salespeople. Whether or not we're selling ourselves in some way, we're just selling ourselves to be liked or to be loved, right?
Right.
So, it's the having human engagement is powerful. And maybe the word sales has taken on a bad impression. So let's look at sales in a different way. Sales is simply you being able to share with somebody else something they need, right? So it could just be, using LinkedIn as an example, you could have a set of friends in the industry who are writing posts that are not getting the right responses that they want. You could do nothing more than to like or love their post and write a comment back. Loved what you wrote, really added value to my day. Right? Very simple one, but you could then go into much more complicated responses.
Right.
That is you selling yourself as a good person. I mean, truthfully, I have people who that is their primary networking technique, is they've identified 50 people and they pay attention to those 50, and whenever they publish anything, they like and comment. I have to tell you, if you've done that for even a week, but let's say you do it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, when you reach out to that person, they're going to take your call. They're going to want to do a favor for you. And so it's you're not doing it because you're asking for favors, but at any point in time, if you're not selling anything but you decide to leave your company, you want to go somewhere else, you're asking for a favor. Hey, listen, I'm going somewhere else. There's somebody that somebody at this company, or you're at this company. Do you know any opportunities? There's always an opportunity. I think it's just a logical way to maintain a relationship in the business space.
Yes. So let me ask you a question, because to me, that brings me to this thought, is kindness as a tactic. Because I think that there are some people who will very intentionally be your buddy, but you can pretty clearly see through their motive. It's not necessarily that they care about you and like your content, but they are setting you up to ask you a favor. So the kind of key difference that I see there is people who do it out of genuine kindness and intentionality for being a good person without a direct ask tied to it. So to clarify that, the way I see it and the way that I intend on doing it is, these are people who are in my industry, or at one point in time, I may need to call on for a favor, right? I'm going to love and show up on them because A, we have a lot of similarities. At some point in the future, if I've invested 5 years into being a good friend to you and I need a favor, I'm going to ask, and you're probably going to say yes, because I've invested those 5 years into being a genuinely good person. Not because I liked 3 posts and then 4 days later said, hey, can you do me a favor and introduce me to this person?
No, I did an article. I've got a couple of different newsletters. One of the articles I wrote is are you a brown noser, and do you like brown nosers? And no one will ever say yes to that. Once again, just like everyone's a salesperson, to some extent, everyone is some sort of a brown noser, right? And once again, I won't look at it as a negative. I would just say if you have people in the industry and they're doing really good, and you see they're doing really good, you should just say so with no expectation of anything else. The one of the examples, Marshall Goldsmith uses this example all the time. Who's the biggest brown noser in your house? Who gets the most love and attention and affection? Well, if you have a dog, it's the dog,
Yes.
right? And so they're just a continuous brown noser all the time. And you know what? It works, right? For those with a dog, when you come home, who do you hug and pet and tell them how much you love more than anything else? It's probably not your spouse. It's the dog, right? So brown nosing to some extent works. It's just when it's obvious, like what you mentioned. If people don't know me and they click endorse, I had a guy send me an email. I just endorsed 5 of your things, and so why don't you endorse me? My response was, no. Here's my calendar link. If you'd like to talk so I get to know you, I'd be happy to do that.
Right.
He didn't respond, so I disconnected connection.
Which I think that's 100% the correct thing to do on your side there. And, that goes back to what I was saying about the intentionality of it. If that dude had instead just spent a week, 2 weeks, maybe investing some time and engaging with your content and building a little bit of a rapport with you, you might have had a shot there. You might have offered, said, hey, I see what you're doing. I like what you're doing. Let me reach out and respond in kind. And I think people are afraid to invest that time without being transactional with it. And man, I love the encouragement of just being kind and being intentional with people and building relationships in that open-ended way where you're not necessarily looking for an immediate ask from it. I think that makes it way more powerful.
Yeah. Agreed. Ditto.
It's sad to me that becomes uncommon.
What's interesting to me whenever there's new technology, and although this is not new, it's still relatively new. Whenever there's new technology, we're always thinking to ourselves, well, how do I make it work? And what we hear are those people who shout from the rooftops. Hey, come here, do this, spend a lot of money. I remember way back when all the people would say, hey, give me $15,000. I'll build you a Facebook funnel. And Tony Robbins used this funnel to make millions of dollars. You will too. That's not the way it works, right? And so what we often forget when we enter the business world and we want to, I'm putting up the double quotes, close business. What we often forget is just being human. It's just being ourselves. And we think, I've hit the 30,000 I'm over 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. And so, but I get close to the 30,000 limit. There's a 30,000 limit on LinkedIn, right? So I can't possibly be expected to know all 30,000. On the other hand, there are a select few that come past me or those that I actually watch where I want to comment on them. There's at least 15, 20 who I do comment on a consistent basis just because I like their work. I like who they are and how they show up. And we fortunately with LinkedIn, I haven't, but on some of the other platforms, I've paid money like many of us have had to learn how to grow your TikTok following or, how to be successful at making money here. And at the end of the day, what I realized from almost all those programs, unless it's truly allowing me to extend who I am as a human, as opposed to trying to paint me in a light that isn't who I am, I don't like it because I just want to be me, right? I just want people to see me, to trust, know, and like me as me, not as some representation of me that somebody says you have to do this to make money. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Well, I think that brings up the difference between a course and a coach. Because a lot of people look at, hey, let me buy a course because the course is going to teach me how to go make $1 million. Whereas a coach is going to help you be the best version of you that can go out and actually earn that. Right? A course is very, hey, dead set, here's the way. Change yourself into this way that I did, rather than a coach is going to say, hey, let me help you be the best version of you. And once you unlock that best version of you, you can go out and do it your way. Right? Does that jive?
That's really fascinating. I like the simplicity of that. I will tell you a lot of the programs, though, is if they're selling you that $15,000 funnel, it comes with, once again, double quote, them being a coach. But they're not really coaching. All they're doing is trying to shoehorn you into their course material. Ooh, that's interesting. Thanks, Tim. I'm going to borrow that too.
All yours, man.
Uh,
No, but for real, and I think that there's a lot of people who have built their reputation on the thing that they're delivering in and of itself. So someone who says, "Hey, I am a accredited funnel builder. I've made, $1 million selling this funnel." Most of the time, it's the thing that they're actually selling you that they're making the money on, showing you, "Hey, I have this lifestyle." It's because I'm selling you the thing that tells you how to get the lifestyle. It's not, most people are very hesitant to do the work first because it takes 10, 15, 20 years before you see the fruit of that result. And then after that, it's very super self-sustaining. Like, granted, it's still a lot of work, but it takes time to build that sort of thing. And it's not this, Amazon Prime version of success that most people are looking for.
yeah, it comes down to, and for those who if you want to reference any sort of CPOP stuff, that what it comes down to is what I help people understand is how or where they're executing on their purpose in less than 10 words, right? So what does that mean? It means who you serve. So you know your audience. So it's the who, and then what is their pain point or pleasure point? And if you've built a series of solutions that can encourage them either reach their pleasure point or to address their pain point, then what happens when you show up on social media, on your websites, you show up as a person who truly enjoys being of service to your community.
Right.
And the coolest thing I have to tell you, Jim, you'll love this. There was somebody who I wanted on my podcast, and so as I was checking her out before even the pre-interview, I got to her website and she had this 3.5 minute testimonial video reel. And normally I watch it for about 20 seconds. I couldn't stop watching the entire thing. I mean, the entire 3.5 seconds, I was just sitting there because what happened is she didn't come on once, right? A lot of times testimonial videos, you got the person come on and say, "Hey, I'm really good, buy my stuff," right? She didn't come on once. She had all of her clients who were talking about how they used her methodology, and they were so consistent in language. I could tell it was a very simple and single methodology that she had used to help so many people be successful. And, that type of social proof where you actually get to see other people who have trusted as they got to know them and liked that person, enjoyed working and got good results was powerful. And once again, it comes down to who's your audience. And if you're going to a platform, like, who your audience is, Jim, right? So how are you going to reach your audience for them to understand what's important about who you are and what you do, right? And the thing that's interesting is you and I understand. I have 10 active websites. I know how painful it is and I have somebody who's doing web stuff behind the scenes. I know how painful it is for them to actually do all the things that you do for your website and to also make sure that the website owner is treating the website with the TLC that's needed.
Right.
Right. And it comes down to when somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to focus on a different audience." Like, okay, we need to update your website. I'm going to, on LinkedIn, focusing on a different audience. Mitchell, okay. Do you have, how many people in that audience are you already connected to? Who are you connected to that you should, in this case, unfortunately, when you hit 30,000, you have to start unconnecting. Who are you connected to that you shouldn't be? And who else should you add on? And what content will be something that they would find appealing? Right. And it just comes down to knowing your audience and being a servant leader to be of service to them. And people see that. And don't get fooled by the phony people, the bad actors.
And I think that there's a big part of that knowing your CPOP allows you to have the freedom to operate within it. When I look at the people who, as a founder or a CEO, who want to wear all the hats and do all the things, if we talk about website design and maintenance as a thing, right? A lot of people are going to be like, hey, I can go on Wix or Squarespace and build my own website and I could be the one to maintain it. If that is not your zone of genius and you are doing it simply to save a couple bucks or do, whatever thing you're trying to accomplish in your business, but that's not really what your purpose is. If your purpose is to go out and serve people and help them do whatever, right? Whatever your purpose is, operating outside of it becomes a chore. And that's where it becomes way easier to scale a business and be truly successful when you surround yourself with people who are operating in their gift. Right? And I think knowing what your gifting is and what your gifting is not allows you to really set up that boundary and respect the boundary to know, like, hey, this is a thing I'm going to outsource to somebody else. Right? If I need help grow my LinkedIn, guess who I'm going to call? Right? Like, that's not my thing. I know, hey, if I want to do whatever my thing is, let me focus on that. That's where I could be most efficient and most effective.
I have to tell you, if I only had one website, I would absolutely use you. What do you even think about it? Right? Because it's so powerful. I do remember, it was so funny. I remember the last conversation we came up, you were telling me about what you were doing, and we came up with the word LASH, the acronym LASH. And I said, do you mind if I use that? Because, oh, yeah, Mitchell, it's yours. Because you were talking about loved, appreciated, seen, and heard. And you'll notice one of the books I have back here is being seen and heard as a thought leader, right? So seen and heard was, and I'm like, that sounds like a cool acronym. So I did a post on LASH. I spread some cred dust, so I put your name in there, and I got some great feed forward on that. And if, the thing is, if you're enjoying yourself, you run across people who are potential referral partners or just people you just really like, and you just learn from each other. It's really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, much like this conversation, we didn't come on this conversation with a purpose, right? This wasn't a, hey, let's talk about X, Y, and Z. This is a conversation between two people who are operating in their zone of purpose, right, in their CPOP, who are aligned on being servant leaders and serving the people around them to be their best version of themselves. And when you can do that and put those people in a room, that's where magic happens. And when you build that network, right, you build a network of people who are around you who all have these different unique giftings, who are all kind of have done the work. That to me is like the next level that people need to get to, where you have a Rolodex full of people who are lit up, right? And that's where that Amazon Prime version of success comes from, right? You and I can go out and do a thing tomorrow. Hey, it's still going to be a lot of work, but we can reach that success much faster because of all the connections we have, of all the intentional relationships we have. But that took, 15, 20 years to get to that point.
Did we ever create a CPOP for you? I don't know if we did.
Not officially, no.
Did we unofficially do it?
we didn't do it at all.
Do we want to spend?
I'll go through the exercise with you if you'd like.
Do you want to do that live?
Sure, let's do it.
I was just thinking, I was looking at our notes and I didn't see it anywhere, and I'm like, this is interesting. So if you don't mind, we could do it. It would be really, with a guy like you. I've done this over 1,000 times. And with somebody who is open and not full of marketing cookie cutter approaches, it is really relatively easy. Sometimes I have to get over when you have too many marketing fantasies, it's hard for people to see it. So, and we're going to focus on your web business, the website business. Tell me who do you serve? Who is that customer? Who is the primary customer you're focusing on?
That's a small business owner who is also a family person, right? That's the mom and the dad who also they're struggling between juggling the business and being home for their family.
Ooh, interesting. How important is the family orientation?
Very.
But it's not necessarily a family-owned business.
It doesn't have to be a family-owned business. It could be, it could be a corporation, could be public business, doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be a family-owned business. But to me, One of the things that I love to do is help people be truly successful. And I find, nothing against people who don't have kids, but when you have children and you have a bit of a legacy to yourselves, there is a different level of struggle that you reach where it's like, hey, I have to decide between hustling and going all in on my business and hustling going all in on my family. There's a different level of sacrifice that I see with someone who does not have a family of their own to go home to. They can go a little bit deeper in the hustle mode on their business. They don't have to necessarily try and find the harmony between the two.
Got it. Okay. That's interesting. Tell me, what is their, we're going to do both pain point and pleasure point. What typically is the pain point they're experiencing?
The typical pain point someone would experience that, would be wearing too many hats and not being able to be present, I would say. Lack of presence.
Lack of presence everywhere, or lack of presence in
It's
a particular
everywhere,
aspect?
whether they realize it or not. But, when they are home with their family, first of all, most of them are getting home late. They're spending too much time plugged into their emails and their text messages and thinking about work. And when they're at work, they're pissed off that they're working because they're not at home with their family.
Ooh, I love that. What's a pleasure point?
Most of them, a feeling of respect. I think a lot of them are looking for actual success and feeling like they've accomplished something. They're in pursuit of that recognition. A lot of them don't have the attaboy, I'm proud of you from their childhood. So they're looking for some level of, hey, I made $1 million in the business. That must mean I'm successful. Or, hey, I did this thing. I took my family on a vacation to Disney World. That makes me a good dad. So it's showing up as a successful person in their work and their home.
Ooh, I like that. So being seen as successful, both in both worlds, because so many people will ignore one or the other.
Yes.
I still think at home and at work. Yeah, so here's what so if we were doing an exercise together,
Sure.
um, and I do this once a month. I do a group session. I guarantee everyone gets a CPOP. If we're doing it together, I might spend a little bit more time and ask some more questions and drill down. But I think I got yours because it flew off the tip of your tongue. I just heard it, right? And so why don't I share it, and then I have I could send you afterwards, or I do actually have a. Here's what's interesting. Before I share it, the benefit of knowing your CPOP, that customer pointed possibilities, is it becomes a compass. You now can, and by the way, I will tell you, having relooked at your website and your LinkedIn profile, if you like the CPOP, you're going to make a lot of changes to both, right? Because it's a compass. It's like, oh, got it, Mitchell, you're right. And then all of a sudden, and you're a DIYer type of person where you just know what to do.
Right.
I've given over 1,000 CPOPs to companies and individuals. And what I will tell you, this is where it's a little bit sad to me. What I will tell you is only 10% of people are the DIYers. Like they get it, they feel it, they know what to do with it, they're off. So in order to, and I'll make sure I send this to you as well. In order to actually feel what has to happen, I created a 30-day email sequence. So when somebody gets a CPOP, it's 14 emails over 30 days just to remind them. Now, I've not been doing it long enough to tell you my guess. Are you ready? I'm hoping that I'll be able to grow the number of people who take advantage of their CPOP from 10% to 20%. And even if that's true, that's still 80% of the population who needs somebody who's helping, in your case, the SMB with CPOPing. So CPOPing is the act of doing it, and that's kind of your business, creating a website and keeping it up to speed and making it current to the audience they're going after. You're taking one aspect of CPOPing and you're supporting your client with that. That's what's kind of cool. All right, so I have, how many words is it? One, two, three, 6 words. 6 words is really cool. Let's see, do we have any chat feature here? Oh, I don't see chat, so I'll just share it with you. I'm a visual, so I have to see things. Oh, here it is. Here's chat. Let me put it in chat as well, and then I'll read it for you.
All right.
SMB parents wearing too many hats.
It feels good.
You
It's
have, okay, sorry.
yeah. The only thing that immediately comes to mind is who are lacking success or who are operating in this false feeling of success.
So, what I love about this, we potentially you could change words, but what I loved about this and the simplicity of too many hats is the most logical question. So when you're talking to somebody, and by the way, if you do this, all your websites, everything needs to change. By the way, and of course, since I wear a fedora, the hat thing is always a good thing for me. Um, the when you're talking to somebody, there are 3 types of people. One is a referral partner who's going to hear you. Obviously, I'm one of those. One who is a prospect who's going to hear you, and one who just doesn't care. Doesn't mean they don't care about you. It's just they don't care about this playground you play in. But if they are one or two, they're going to ask the most logical next question. Why SMB parents? For instance, when I said my CPOP was Inc. 5,000 CEOs, and somebody say, Mitchell, why are you limiting your audience to 5,000 people? Like, dude, I'm so glad you got it, right? Because first of all, if I got 1% of the 5,000, that'd be a huge number, right? Um, so they might say, what do you mean SMB parents? Why is that? How, I don't have any kids. Why are you not interested in me? Or why would you not interested in the client? What do you mean too many hats, right? So you could say all the stuff we talked about previously, right? Oh, that's a great tagline, right? Too many hats, not enough cake, right? I mean, the thing that's interesting is when somebody says, "Tell me more." Do you mind if I try your CPOP and tell me more for you?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So when somebody says, here's the biggest problem, who are you? What do you do? They're not prepared because they're not going to say yet, what's your CPOP? So who are you? What do you do? There's a class, there's an audience that I just so love serving. Pause, right? So you want to do the pause. You want them to wait for you to share those 6 words and stop. So there's a class, there's an audience I so love serving. SMB parents wearing too many hats. Let me tell you a little bit more about what that means. One of the hats that people try to wear every now and then because they think they can do it and they think they could save money is they end up building their own website where they spend $500 for a cookie cutter website and then they manage it themselves. I have to tell you, we have found that to do it right will take an extra 5, 10, 15 hours per month, or you might say per week, away from the business owner. That's a hat that they shouldn't wear and they don't need to wear. We have a solution that's inexpensively priced that not only do we build their website, but we keep it fresh month to month.
Yeah,
That kind of works.
it does. It does, and I think the reason it works so well is because that was me 5 years ago, and that's what makes it powerful, right? You're really talking to your previous self. So me, circa 2019, where I was putting on too many hats myself because I wanted to be all those things, and I was chasing that definition of success, where I didn't show up as successful in my own house, but I had the quote unquote business success, which, mind you, I have more businesses now and they are more successful now than they were at the time I thought I was successful. And I am way freaking more present with my family than I ever was. I'm in better shape. I'm in better spiritual standing. Like all of the metrics are better now than they were when I thought I was quote unquote successful. But that's who I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to my previous self.
By the way, grab this clip to remind you because that was a great Tell Me More. That was absolutely beautiful. That was your Tell Me More from your perspective. And that's the thing I tell people. We've been taught something that I really would like to encourage everyone to throw away. the 30-second elevator pitch. Because the problem with the 30-second elevator pitch, although it's 30 seconds, which is great, it comes from your head, not from your heart.
And it comes from 3 feet further south, if you ask me.
Say that again.
I think most people's 30-second elevator pitch comes from their ass, not their heart, is my point. I don't think they mean it genuinely. And that's the thing.
I thought that's what you meant. I'm like, huh? Did I actually hear him right?
Sure did. But look, I mean, really, that's, to me, the reason why I'm able to give that tell me more answer is because it's genuine. And I think the point of this, to sum it up for the people who are listening, is I've done 5 years of intensive, intentional work on figuring out who the heck I am and operating as the authentic version of me. Right? So when you plug in a CPOP, I'm able to spit out an answer pretty simply because it's genuine. I don't have to try and think of, hey, how do I come up with a really nice answer? I don't have to sit there for 3 hours and talk to ChatGPT and give the answer because I've already done the work. And so the encouragement I would give to everyone is do the time, do the work, figure out what your CPOP is, right? Talk to you, find out how to actually understand, put that into words, get around people, get a coach, do the work. And then everything just really flows way more organically. This is not a thing where you can just input 3 lines of sentences into ChatGPT and get your answer and then just go scale it to $1 million.
No. Well, you could put it in and you could, maybe it would work one time, but that's not going to help you, right? I think what I love about, if you understand the playground that you live in and you're comfortable with it, i.e. your CPOP, then your tell me more is going to change based on who you're talking to. But it needs to come from your heart. It needs to come from your heart in a way that you authentically share an answer that the person on the other side is relating to. And that's the real benefit. You end up with, and now here's the cool part. Are you ready? So
Yeah.
the compass is your CPOP. So it's now time to update your website, your LinkedIn, whatever you do for social. When you do make those updates, then your CPOP also becomes your magnet. Because I don't know any website hosting, development, maintenance firm that focuses solely on SMB parents wearing too many hats. So when
Same.
I run into the next SMB parent who is complaining about something, I'm going to think about you, right? And so you turn your compass into a magnet. It's kind of cool.
I love that. I think even more so what I love about this is experiencing this in real time. I've been doing that. So I've had the web development and growth business for 12 years. Doing it for as long as I have, growing it, it's a self-sustaining business. I don't spend a lot of time in personally because I'm all over the place. But in real time, today is November 26th, 2024, developing this CPOP and kind of uncovering the compass and the magnet here in real time, seeing how this now transforms even further and how that actually plays out in real time. I think that's so freaking cool because now, exactly what you're right, what I'm going to go do is going to go take this conversation and DIY it into that business, and we're going to see what happens. And I guarantee the results will be epic.
Lovely. I'm looking forward to it. Well, I did great with the first lash, so now I'm looking forward to following through and seeing how that works for you. But we'll partner because I love this focus and thought. And what I do is the LinkedIn, one of the programs, I have many different programs, but I wasn't speaking the right language. I was speaking the language that I thought people wanted to hear versus speaking the language of what people want to hear.
Right.
Right. And so I was focused on clarity certification and all that stuff. And behind the scenes was a LinkedIn growth program that just was one of its foundation levels. Well, when I was researching you again, or reminding me of you today, I'm like, God, what a good fit. So I want to go both ways. I want to, when I'm talking to my clients, I want to make sure they have a good, compelling website, and they're not wearing now too many hats to keep that up and running, right? And then, and vice versa, the clients you have, if their referral partners, if their clients are on LinkedIn, I have a nice, very reasonably priced approach to help them grow their LinkedIn network, not with artificial, silly marketing cookie cutter stuff, but really kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah, I love that. And what I love the most about this conversation is how organic and natural it has been, and raw, because I think a lot of people would probably not share this part as two dudes who've done a lot of awesome stuff, who are continuing to find out more and better stuff about themselves and then going and executing it. Most people would hide that part, and we'd be out here saying, hey, we are the best of the best and we are doing this awesome stuff. Come buy our crap. And not that we're not, but we are genuinely learning more about each other and refining our own processes in real time and becoming better because we're two people who genuinely care about each other, helping each other grow. And I freaking love that.
Just gave a chill down my body. Thank you.
Man, thank you. This has been, you are 2 for 2. So I'll tell you that. You've got 100% batting average. Congratulations to you. I don't think we've had a 3-time guest on the show yet, but if there was going to be one, sir, I'll tell you what, you are in the running for first place as of now. This has been another absolutely amazing conversation. So I just want to honor you for showing up and continuing to be a servant leader and a man of great value. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and right back at you.
Thank you. Just remind us where we can learn more, because I'm sure this conversation has sparked some interest in people figuring out either how to get their own CPOP or how to use LinkedIn properly. So if there's a resource for them to follow you on, obviously I'm assuming LinkedIn may or may not be the place, considering you have so many connections there. But
yes, you could absolutely go to LinkedIn. What I always encourage people to do is just go to my website, which is mitchelllevy.com, MITCHELLLEVY.com. There, it looks at all the programs we have, and also has a connection to the LinkedIn. And the by the time people see this or hear this, it may be true, but I buried the LinkedIn growth stuff so far you can't even find that, right? So that's something that I'm working on too, is just updating the sites to focus on what it is that people really want. You don't just want to have a LinkedIn site. You want to have a LinkedIn site that actually works for you and it comes from your heart. Same thing with a website. You don't want a website that's just a website that's put up once, looks pretty, but isn't organic and doesn't feel like you. You want a website that's part of the SMB, who's a parent,
right,
who really does want to do things with integrity, with authenticity, with the servant leadership showing. And, that's where we are both so closely aligned. But, that's something that's not, not represented. The LinkedIn growth is not represented today, but it might be tomorrow. We'll see how quickly my team can help me work on that.
I love it, sir. This has been, again, an honor, and I look forward to continuing this conversation the next time.
Thank you. Right back at you. Thanks, Jim.
My pleasure.